And so since we've been talking about westerns, I'll begin with this. I was rewatching scenes from Joshile. Do you have memories of shooting that film and this genre when it came to you?
Because I've got good memories because that was the first time I shot in Ladakh, and so we uh, it was a long sked, and we were there. So we had some because I was not I really, to be honest with you, I was not a didn't know how to ride a horse
Right.
before the film, so I was worried about that. And then just I had about exactly a few hours in Mumbai, to really to learn how to ride a horse. Then I went over here in Mumbai and sat on the horse, and then did a little bit of riding. But still, was very, very nervous. And then I don't know what happened. The terrain was such, and the whole atmosphere was such. I just sat on the horse, and I just, it felt that I've actually been riding a horse since childhood. And once during the shooting of the film, I, completely lost control of the horse.
Right.
And the horse and the terrain of Ladakh is such that you can't see, road for miles and miles. Oh, and the horse kept on. I just couldn't control it. The horse wouldn't stop, and just went on and on and on and on and on. And my hands were sweating, and I felt, this is the end of my life. And my legs, I was shivering, but I just said, I'm not going to leave this horse. And ultimately, after I don't know how many minutes, I don't remember, then we reached the Thar road, and then the horse was also sweating so much. And the horse started slipping on the tar because they had those,
Boots.
horseshoes, and because it started slipping, and then it just stopped, and I got off from the horse.
Do you remember the tavern scene?
Sorry,
The tavern scene where they confront you with your name?
to be honest,
I think they will is somewhere on the side looking.
yeah, I don't really remember, but when you
Right.
it just there is some memories which are coming, which is, and I think it was shot by, was it outdoors or indoors?
Indoors.
Indoors, shot by Ashok Mehta.
Right.
There was another DOP who was shooting it. It was a Chang, and ultimately, genius of Ashok Mehta. The way he captured the tavern was absolutely, breathtaking.
Right.
Yeah, I remember that. We were shooting in Film City,
Right.
and we shot the scene. Yeah, right. Yeah.
Right. Coming to Thar, Harsh, tell me this. In interviews at the launch, you spoke about how keen you were to protect this film as well, as a producer, and to make sure that Raj's vision comes across very well. How important? Why was this so important? To make sure that the film comes across in the form that it was written, and how much did your role as a producer contribute to that?
I think it's important just because there's very little like it. You know what I mean? So the idea is to put new things out there into the universe, to start a conversation, to try and kind of do something a little subversive. And I mean, I've always kind of loved films that contribute to pop culture in a way, So I not really that interested in making films that are going to kind of change the world or it's really about making films because people love films, you know what I mean?
Right.
And it's in order to be able to do that, you have to have originality, and that's what needed to be protected, is the uniqueness and the authenticity of the world, and the characters and nuances within that world, so that I think that and it was just also because Raj is a new director and I'm a new actor, so that was kind of something we had in common, as opposed to one person being very experienced and the other being very inexperienced. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like two people at the start of their respective journeys, kind of aligning in a way, and then kind of sharing a similar kind of vision for the film, and then just kind of making sure that nothing really gets in the way of that.
Right. Raj, you spoke about this being a long cherished vision for you, and you grew up in Darjeeling and Rajasthan, envisioning cowboys on the hill line. Tell us about which are the westerns that you grew up on. You also spoke about comic books and reading serialized comics.
Yeah, I mean, the classics, Good, Bad, Ugly, Once Upon a Time in the West, all Sergio Leone films, Ennio Morricone, soundtracks, everything. I think every Western, Bud Spencer, Terence Hill.
Yeah.
So all of these, and I used to. It's just a child's imagination. Like when when I used to go to Rajasthan and be amongst that landscape, I used to see, like, just visualize a horse coming over the, the mountain,
Crest,
and a
yeah.
cowboy and
Yeah.
those sort of things. And I'm so lucky that I'm able to make a film in such a way with Sir and Harsh and Sir. I mean, it's a dream come true in that sort of a way.
Right.
That what you saw as a child, you're able to put it on screen and create your own world that way.
Right. Right.
Yeah, and all of these Western classics, and there were these books by Louis Lema.
Hmm.
A lot of novels I read of his. We had these comics which were Western comics. So I don't know. I thought I probably may be a cowboy in my last life.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm just.
Very violent cowboy.
Sir actually said, "तेरे शक्ल पे, you don't look it, but तेरे अंदर कुछ ना कुछ है कि तू."
हाँ.
Right.
ऐसा लगता नहीं कि ये फिल्म ऐसी, उसकी शक्ल देख के लगता है कि नहीं ये इतनी ऐसी फिल्म बना सकता.
Right. To both Harsh and Anil, tell me this. The Western performance has its own rhythm and it has its own grammar almost. I remember, like, my favorite thing in Sholay is just how dry and brooding Amitabh Bachchan is, right? Because Dharmendra has the funnier role. You can enjoy the just. Indian heroes are traditionally very warm, but in a Western, you can just take the back seat. You can be brood along the shadows. You can smoke a cigar, things like that. Tell us about how do you approach a performance? How you have the outsider character here, the antique dealer who comes in. So, and also, Anil, I want to hear your thoughts on this. Does it change? Does this whole approach to performance change when you're doing a Western?
First of all, that's like, I think, the best question that we've been asked today, the whole day. But no, it's like, the thing is it's actually very, I found it very challenging because I don't want to kind of reveal too much about character, but in the realm of kind of what you said, here is a person that's not able to reveal too much about himself or what he's kind of going through or who he really is. And how do you kind of make a person like that, a character like that, magnetic in a way where even though he's not able to kind of say much because of the circumstance or kind of be very warm and expressive, like you said, how do you kind of hold the attention of the viewer without being boring or kind of without the performance coming across as flat?
Yeah.
So I think we did a lot of work of kind of trying to outline and understand thoughts that this character would have. Even, for example, if he's having a conversation with somebody and the conversation is about something completely different, the thoughts that are actually going on in his mind are very, very different from what he's saying. And then kind of came in like a lot of concentration exercises and like a lot of breathing exercises to make sure that the gaze doesn't break. So when he talks to you, he looks at you with kind of like a dead cold stare. But behind that dead cold stare, there's a lot kind of going on inside. So then when you see the dead cold stare, there's something about it that you can't quite put your hand on, but it's there. Right? And I just kind of felt like we did a lot of stuff even before the film started at my house where we just try to kind of hold that intensity. And it's amazing. It's like when the breathing and the concentration would go away, the performance would also kind of like dip.
Right.
In a way, so it's kind of like that. And then we did a lot of voice stuff in a way without trying to make it too overbearing. And yeah, so there was kind of a lot of that, and it was really, really kind of challenging because in AK versus AK and Ray, I played very
Loud.
loud. In AK versus AK, that character is obnoxious. He wants to be the center of attention. In Ray, he's kind of a very self-involved narcissist who only cares about himself and is also kind of quite out there in certain sequences. And this was just a complete departure from that, and I think this took a lot of Raj's belief in a lot of security, because when you do something like AK versus AK or Ray, you kind of feel like, somewhere they're going to enjoy this because like it's very subversive, but you're also playing to the galleries in a way. But this is just completely not that. So I've gone there and done it, and now it's just really kind of over to people to interpret the performance in whatever way they.
I see.
It's like I know it's a long answer, but I really want to articulate it. So it's like, when I do something like to kind of grab, it's a lot easier for people to kind of like it in a way because I'm making up their mind for them by putting in a performance.
Right.
Here it was really trying to take the performance out of it, but still try and kind of be engaging and do all the things that you're supposed to do.
Right.
That makes sense.
Right. And so you're playing the grizzled, heart-bitten cop, who's been there, who knows the terrain. What was your approach to this role?
See, because I'm doing this role at the right time of my life. So what happens is where you've done it all also, but still want to do more, and people think that you've done it all, but actually you've not. There's so much left in you, and you feel this is just the beginning. So all these things really help me, because in life, I feel that there's so much I can do more as a human being, as a person, as a father, as a husband, and as a son, and as an actor also. I have so much to do, and I feel I'm not done enough. And there are so many filmmakers I want to work with, so many characters which I would love to do, but still there are times when people come up to me and says, "You've done everything. What next?" But actually, inherently, I'm feeling no. There's so much in me that I have to do. But then they feel the time is up, and you should, so all these things are thrown at you. Some mean it well, some don't mean it well. Some people are not insensitive to the whole this kind of situation in your real life, and you have to go through it, and then and still do what you really want to do. So all these things really help me in this character.
I see.
When I so all these, sometimes what happens is like as Harsh said, that he puts the thought. So for me, there are so many emotional memories, and which I use it when I do this, which helps me. And of course, the paramount thing is the material which I get. So there are so many things which you can do, but if the material is not there, you can't do it. No matter how good you are at your craft, or how good you are at translating what you really want to do as a character. But if it's not there on the paper, you can't do it. If you don't have the right team, you don't have the right, it includes everybody, a co-actor who you feed, the right person in front of you, the co-actors, the director, the DOP, the art director, the music. All these things have to fall in place for me. What is there on paper to, put it on screen.
Yesterday you spoke about Once Upon a Time in the West and No Country for Old Men as two westerns that you really liked. Is there any other title that's close to you, or you got
I've seen a lot, because during this when we had that 8 9 months off because of COVID, there are a lot of films which I revisited, which I had seen in my childhood. So I revisited those films. It was fun to watch them, and of course, I watched a lot of contemporary westerns, so-called westerns, and films which were made by directors of the younger directors. There were these, Sergio Leone.
Older classics.
It's got, they are those classics. But today, the younger generation won't be able to relate to those films. They will find it, yeah, it's there, it's good, but what is there in the film?
Right.
So I saw all these films made by Coen brothers. I saw No Country for Old Men. I saw Hell and
Hello, High Water.
High Water. Then I saw Django. And so many other films which Harsh, which I was not aware of. Like I saw Drive, which is not a western, but somewhere it had the elements of these things. And there's a lot of films which he, and there was another film which was made by the actor who acted in Whiplash.
So my key reference that was Too Old to Die Young. The Amazon Prime show with
Amazing show.
Because I wanted to bring, it's a western also, but it's kind of it's a young protagonist, a very young protagonist, and it also has elements of like film noir, and so what Nicholas Winding Refn does with his actors is it's kind of there's a lot of stillness in the performance, and the aesthetic and the world really kind of shines, so we kind of wanted to take a little bit.
Yeah.
So what I just wanted to add to that, so when we initially, had the original first draft, and there was a certain way we were doing the film, which was Harsh and me had worked on it. And then when Anil sir read it, and then he came on board. And the amazing thing about Anil sir is that he has this amazing adaptation to every sensibility.
Mm.
And he, with conviction. And so when he came on board, he, so we're just talking about the films he saw in contemporary westerns, like one of them is Godless
Yeah.
on Netflix. So he brought in this sort of marriage of two worlds, and this is where we arrived at a draft which was not too extreme, but somewhere where it is palatable to every audience, and that years of experience and his ability to, that adapt to every sensibility is amazing. I mean, that is
And trying to adapt to the sensibility and take whatever they more from them rather than give them what I have. So adapting to their sensibilities and little garnishing of what I feel is, which if they want to accept it, they would accept it. And if they said no, so I said, okay, cool. I'm not a very confrontationist kind of a person.
Right. You did mention that you rejected a couple of suggestions that he came up with. Is that possible to happen?
What?
Like him suggesting something and you not like brushing it off?
Not really. I don't. I mean, maybe certain things about the script, but not performance-wise. That's, But I think that was kind of more a joke. But I think the initial drafts were even more kind of subversive than what, but he, like Raj said, there's a very good balance now. Yeah. There's a very good balance now. There are very fully kind of etched out characters, and there's something in it now for kind of a wider. It's still very true. I think that's the magic that happened during the COVID, the first lockdown, right? Yeah. Was that the what we liked about the script is that's the film, but somehow, and I don't know how this has happened, but it's also become more palatable without being watered down in any way.
Right.
And I think that's him, in that
exactly. That's
in that sense. But yeah, for me, like for Dad was watching a lot of the classic. I was really kind of attached to the idea of the young, like Ryan Gosling in Drive or Miles Teller in Only God Forgives. And these are characters that are on the borders of society. They don't feel like they're a part of society. They're kind of also entering worlds, right? Like Ryan Gosling is entering the world with Carey Mulligan and the husband.
Yeah.
Miles Teller is kind of just a drifter.
I see. Yeah.
And so that quality of how, when you look at those men, they're able to kind of just hold your attention without really kind of having much wiggle room.
I see.
And so that was really
Right. I'll end with a quick segment. Guys, tell me one thing that's good, that's bad, and that's ugly about Bollywood at the moment. Raj can go with the good.
The good is Bollywood is amazing in the sense that we churn out films of all kinds and all genres, and that's a great thing about Bollywood.
Right.
The bad about Bollywood, I don't know. Maybe I'm just entering so from the other side. I'm not sure about that. Ugly again. I haven't seen any ugly side to Bollywood yet.
Right. Okay. Harsh, for a few dollars more, would you do a film that your heart is not in?
It's very tough, man. I don't think so. I don't. It's just, like the thing is, see, I might do something that people might still think is terrible, but the eventuality of having to live with it is a big factor, right? Like, thing is, you can think that something is not good, but like you did it like because of like a pure intention, and that's very important, right? Because see, everybody's in this business for different reasons, and I respect everybody's reasons, but for me, I come from a place that's slightly kind of more privileged, where I can kind of take that leap. But I mean, I still see a lot of people from privilege not doing that, but so that's them and that's me in the senses. I do it for myself, and I do it for, I'm on my own kind of journey, so it's just so difficult for me to imagine kind of doing something for other purposes and being on that set every day and being convinced and having the conviction to do a decent job. And I always think about, even if I did it right and I did really well, what would I do after that? Like, what next? Like, it doesn't end there, right? Then there's a certain expectation that's set where maybe audiences have liked you in something, so you got to keep repeating it, and then you're stuck, So I never want to be stuck like that.
Right. And so Hindi cinema is no country for dash men, like any attribute, any quality.
Hindi cinema is very inclusive, and to each his own, and and there are certain. I think it's for everybody, from anywhere in the world, and for any part of this country, from any small little town or village, he can come and do whatever he feels, wants to make, create, perform, act. I think it's for everybody.
Right, great. Thank you so much. All the best for Thar, guys. Thank you.
you.